In 1923, my great uncle, his name was also John Mitsos. He immigrated to the United States, and he had a partner. His name was George Papazikis, another Greek gentleman, and they started. It was actually called Coney Island Lunch on West Washington Street in Newcastle. I'd imagine it's tough to say. These are, many generations ago, so I never knew them personally. But just much like many people at that time, it was booming, the immigration into America, and it's the land of opportunity. And well, they didn't have the internet back then. They said they weren't seeing videos and this type of stuff, but I'm sure the stories were there, the books, the newspapers, and took a chance.
Did both of them, you think, came to Lawrence County right away when immigrating to the area, or were they someplace else in the U.S. first?
They did, as many do, come through New York City. Actually, my grandfather's name, he was also John Mitsos. He's actually got his name on the Statue of Liberty.
Oh, wow.
They have kind of, a monument with a lot of immigrants that came in. So, I don't know how long that they were there before coming here, but, I'd imagine, I'm just speculating here, but, being that there was probably a strong Greek community in the area, around that time too, Newcastle was actually quite substantial of a industrial city, and population-wise, it was one of the most populous areas. And it's kind of, I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but it's kind of just jam smack in between New York and Chicago. So I'm sure it's kind of a combination of all those factors that, landed them here.
So why do you think, out of everything that they could have done, they started MP Coney Island hot dogs? Like, were they chefs? Like, tell me a little bit about what may have sparked that idea.
Yeah, good question. I mean, they probably didn't have, and I even this is the generation before my grandfather, and I know my grandfather, he didn't have past the first grade education. So, functionally, aside from just hitting the ground running early and working whatever they could, one of the great traditions with, Greek heritage is the cooking, obviously. So it was probably one of the few things that they, knew that would resonate with people. That's kind of universal, no matter what part of the world you're in. And if anybody's that's familiar with Greek food, there's a dish called moussaka, and it's got layers of eggplant with a meat layer in between. So they're not the only ones. It's kind of a running joke. If you're Greek, you own a restaurant. A lot of Greeks took that spicy meat layer and made their own version of a sauce with it, often referred to as Greek sauce. Ours is definitely very unique compared to most others, but that's where the evolution started from.
Very cool. And you mentioned, what year was the business started?
1923.
And they opened up here on West Washington, you said?
West Washington Street.
Okay. Why do you think, they chose to be in that area specifically? Is there a story behind that, you think? Like, what was going on at the time that they moved on and moved here specifically to that destination?
The best I can imagine is because, that West Washington Street, even to this day, geographically, as far as a centralized location for downtown Newcastle, that's right there in the square. Especially back then, vehicles were, I guess a car had been invented, but that wasn't ubiquitous quite yet. So, people weren't traveling miles upon miles for their daily needs and wants. So I'm sure it made sense to be somewhere that was very centralized. Also back then, whereas, unfortunately nowadays downtown Newcastle is not quite as vibrant. People have kind of spread out and everything. That's where all the industry was at, all the businesses. The actual location in that town center, I'm sure it was just a combination of it was available and the the money was not cost prohibitive to get into that real estate.
Do you believe that there's been many changes from when they started the business to now, and what would you think those are?
Yes and no. I mean, it depends.
Excuse me one
Yeah.
second. So repeat that back as a statement. We won't hear her question. So your response might be, some of the changes that we've seen are blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Yeah, so some of the changes, they can be different things conceptually. You know, it was only 10, 15 years ago that we even started taking credit cards at the restaurant, you know, or debit cards. You know, just a cash-only business for a long time. Originally, while we did have hot dogs and our chili sauce, it was more of a diner type feel, to where you sit down, get served by a server. You know, people order dinners, you know, meatloaf, this type of stuff. Where it's kind of evolved into more of a quick service type restaurant, you know, really specializing in, as we call it, the holy trinity of the hot dogs, burgers, and fries with our chili sauce on there. So it's kind of been more streamlined, I guess, is the biggest change from a more robust sort of menu initially.
Okay. What about like the recipes? Do you think all of them pretty much stayed consistent to the original one that they had?
The recipe is very true to the original recipe. We have made refinements over the year to make it more consistent and efficient of a process. Now, granted, I can't go back in time and taste it, but it's been passed down through very few people over the years. So, you know, I'm sure there might be subtle nuances there, but it's not a situation where it's a bad game of telephone where it's gone through hundreds and hundreds of people.
What do you believe this business brings to our county?
Well, aside from jobs, it's something that you know, ever since even myself growing up, you know, once people realize that I'm part of the family that owns it, people don't hesitate to tell me how much it's meant to them, and you know, how they love coming to the place. And then if I ever meet somebody outside of Newcastle and they happen to be from Newcastle originally, or you know, the type of thing that, you know, one of the things they tell me is whenever I come back to town, I got to stop at MP Coney Island. Or if I have somebody, a family member that's coming to Newcastle and coming back my way, I make it a point that they pick up chili and bring it back to myself. You know, if you go on Google and search the hot dog capital of the world, it says Newcastle, Pennsylvania. And
Hold on one second.
we got the
Yeah.
emergency services there. That adds to the ambiance of the...
Go ahead.
If you search on Google the hot dog capital of the world, it actually says Newcastle, Pennsylvania. And, you know, clearly MP Coney Island has had a large part in that being the case. So it's kind of symbiotic, you know, because of our success and the people, we've been able to last this long, but also kind of help put Newcastle on the map for something there, amongst other things that Newcastle's known for, like the fireworks capital of the world and whatnot.
I love the food, as you are aware of. I'm like there regularly, and my mom has been a fan, and every time she comes to town, it's absolutely the one place she must visit when she's in town. Since she was a little girl visiting the area, and her father also grew up here and had to do the same thing, was very in love with your recipe and her regulars. Still are to this day. What does the business currently do within the community? So, like, what generation currently owns the business? You know, what involvement with special organizations do you guys have? Who do you guys sponsor, if anyone in particular, and support?
Yeah. Currently, the business is in its third and fourth generation of ownership. My brother, I have two brothers, younger brothers, and the one brother does have 3 boys as well. So the fifth generation is in place securely as well. We get very involved with a lot of different organizations within the community, a lot of the local schools, boosters, athletics, that type of stuff. The church, being Greek, it's a very big thing with Greeks and getting involved with the community church there. So St. George is the local Greek Orthodox church in town. The United Way, Vietnam Agent Orange Veterans Organization. Really too many to mention. Almost every day we're getting asked to participate with some sort of fellowship, or charity, and we do everything we can to support that and give back to the community.
What kind of events do you guys plan, or what is the perfect clientele that comes to visit your business?
Yeah, we have different events that have transpired. We just celebrated our 100-year anniversary last year. We did have what we called a 100-year Chilibration next to the Nishanik store. Got a big tent, live music, had some local vendors come out, and we did have a hot dog eating competition, which was a lot of fun. Chili dogs, not just plain hot dogs, of course, it has to be chili dogs. So, we plan on doing more things like that in the future. Now that the brand's expanding as well and other stores are popping up, other MP Coney Islands, they're also hosting their own events to get the word out and continued way to also just get involved in the community. And, as far as the typical customer at our store, one of the things of just being around for as long as we have and, so many generations, it's kind of a rite of passage in Newcastle, whether it's, I used to go here when I was a little boy or a girl, and now I'm 60, 70, 80 years old, they're still coming to the store and they're bringing their children and children's children. Or, I used to work here when I was 16 and now I'm, doing a whole other thing, a whole other part of life, but it's nostalgic for them. So we don't really have a typical customer. Some places truly do kind of have a niche that they do really well with. We're kind of fortunate that it's really all ages, genders, ethnicities, backgrounds, socioeconomic standing. It kind of runs the gamut.
Very cool. So, tell us a little bit about where the business is going. What are you looking to do in the near future?
Yes. MP Coney Island, it has been around now for 101 years. And, throughout its tenure, we have had a couple stores in Newcastle. We did close the Kennedy Square location a couple years ago. Geographically, it was just very close to the Nishanik store that was opened in 1972. And most businesses have kind of left the central part of downtown Newcastle. That location didn't have any parking really or a drive-through, so it just kind of made sense to close that store. We do get usage out of it. One of the things that's happened over the last several years is our chili sauce. We started selling it retail and distributing it to supermarkets. We're in over 100 supermarkets around the area. As far north as New York, south as West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania. So we do use that building for a lot of storage. It's floor to ceiling for containers for the supermarkets and spice mix for the chili. So it is still functional from that aspect, but we did start offering the opportunity for others to get involved with MP Coney Island through the selling of franchises. We announced just about 2 years ago, and we've been fortunate that several partners have come in with us into the business opportunity. So we're looking to expand, and it's all happening right now. It's a combination of a business that's been around for over 100 years, so it is well established with a fan base. But for people that are getting involved with this new step that we're going through here. It's ground level, so it's kind of a unique opportunity to get involved with something that's established, but also entry level at the same time. So we do have actually 3 franchisees right now that have signed up with us. Our first to open did open right before Memorial Day this year in the greater Erie, Pennsylvania area, technically Fairview, but it's just about 10 minutes west of downtown Erie. Over the coming months, we have 2 more stores that'll be opening, one in the Lawrence Village Plaza area of Shenango Township, one of our franchisees building a freestanding building there, and around the same time, we also have a store in Hermitage, Pennsylvania, that'll be opening up. And heading into next year, we do have another franchisee in the pipeline out of the Canonsburg, Pennsylvania area, just southwest of Pittsburgh, and they're on pace to be open spring of 2025. And in the interim, as we would hopefully continue to expect, others, as they're qualified and grow through the process, will ultimately become franchisee partners with us. And where that will be, time will tell, but we're excited to expand the brand and get the MP Coney Island experience into other parts of the country.
Very cool, very cool. So let me ask you, I know this isn't one of the questions that you have, but what's one of your favorite things about Lawrence County? Like, do you have a favorite thing to do here? Is there a place that you like to spend your time?
Lawrence County, it's where I grew up. It's where I still live. So as they say, there's no place like home. It might not be New York City or Los Angeles, the glitz and glamour and all that, but it's really nice to be able to to get in your car and go on a drive and go from a relatively suburban area, and next thing you know, you're driving through farm country, and it's like a trip back in time a little bit. And I really enjoy the changing of the seasons and all that. Even now, granted, we haven't had super crazy winters the last couple years and everything like that, which is kind of nice as well. But I don't know that I'd want to live somewhere where it was just always 80 degrees all year round. It kind of makes it a little bit sweeter when you get the ebb and flow of everything like that. Mill Creek Park, Pearson Park is just it's nice to within 5-10 minutes you can go somewhere really beautiful and get the fresh air and scenery and all that. Growing up, I know kids don't do this so much anymore, but back before social media and cell phones and all this stuff, we used to go out, and the thing everybody did was they would cruise. They called it cruising the diamond. Right here in Kennedy Square, you just go out, $5 of gas, and you could just drive around all night around the circle, and it was like a promenade every Friday and Saturday night. Just lots of cars. You would see the regulars and all that, and every once in a while, you'd maybe find some friends and stop, pull over wherever in the parking garage and hang out. But yeah, those are the memories I grew up with. I think everybody's nostalgic for, the things they experienced in their youth as they get older.
Do you have any particular memories or experiences that you can share with us about Cascade Park in particular?
Me personally, not a ton. I can't say for certain when I was born if it was still open in some capacity or not, but certainly it wasn't what it was. But driving by, it was almost in a way more interesting the fact that it was closed down, but it was like mysterious, like imagining what that thing was, and it was like having kind of like a Kennywood or something, in Newcastle. Just like we used to have a mall, right?
Right. Like your family, did they have anything that they ever shared to you about Cass? I know that my cousins always are like, they had the best dances at the dance hall. Somebody even remembered like dancing on her dad's feet, and she's like much older, but was dancing on her dad's feet whenever they had the dances at the dance hall. Do you remember any stories that they may have told you about that?
Not so much. I know that, you know, my father and his generation would go there, you know, and that type of stuff. I don't know if they used to have a pool there too. I vaguely remember stories about that. That's kind of where you went to swim and that type of stuff. Nothing too specific beyond that, to be honest. Yeah.
Well, what other questions do you think you have?
You've covered it, both of you, very, very well. I'm good with that. Is there anything else that you'd like to add or present? Ash, in terms of how
You know, Neshannock, yeah, any school, the athletic program is very important. But the city school, the Newcastle, you know, high school, it's huge, and they've had just some great success, you know, in a very big division, you know, in multiple sports. And certainly it's, you know, even for the folks that didn't play, you know, it's just like rooting for the Steelers or something like that. And they take a lot of pride in that. So we know how important that is to the community, and you know, we don't hesitate to get involved when given the opportunity.
Let me ask you too, when you first took over the family business, was there maybe one task that you were just like, I don't want to do this? And what was that? Like, that's always a kind of funny story, right? So what is that one thing? And maybe it's even still
or
something.
2 things, or 3 things, or
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I guess I've been through a lot. I've had a lot of good experience in getting involved before I got involved with the family business directly. You know, I grew up with it, so it was always there in the periphery. I didn't get fully immersed and do this full time until a couple years ago, when they were going the direction of expanding the brand by offering franchises and wanting to open other stores. So, you know, I think the biggest challenge there was, because we've been around so long, we were very fortunate to have a lot of highly tenured employees that have been there a long time, which is actually very unique in this restaurant type of business. You don't see that very often. We've got people that have been there over 25 years, you know, over 10 years, over 5 years, which is fantastic. But when you're doing new things and taking something that's done a certain thing the same way for so long and heading in a new direction, sometimes change can be difficult. Whether or not ultimately it's for the better in the short term, sometimes change can be difficult and a little bit of a pain process. So it's not so much that I didn't want to do those things, but if I kind of switch gears into what was, you know, one of the biggest challenges, that would certainly be the biggest challenge. I'm not somebody that complains too much. You know, I try to put on a tough exterior and this type of thing, pretty stoic. So it's not, I frame things a little bit differently. I don't ever look at it as something that I don't want to do. It's more so, what are the things that are going to be more challenging than others on a priority list there.
That's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful.
Much if, you know, where this is being portrayed or anything, but certainly, you know, I will mention with everything that we're doing with the expansion of the brand, or just anything at all as far as announcements, keeping tabs on it, being able to, we do sell our chili, actually, for a lot of those folks that have moved around the country, aside from the supermarkets, more locally. You can actually go to our website, www.mpconeyisland.com, and get the chili shipped directly to your door, whether you're in California or Florida, anywhere in the lower 48 states. And, you know, it's amazing to see how far the brand awareness is. And, you know, just this morning, we got an order from California. So people can do that. Additionally, anybody that would like to get more information about getting involved with our franchise opportunity and owning their own MP Coney Island, that information is also available on the franchise tab on our website, mpconeyisland.com.
If my mom was 10 years younger, I tell you, she would